Welcome back to the Classical Liberal Arts Academy's Petty School Reading Program. In this lesson, we'll continue our study of English reading. Remember, there is no way to become a good English reader or speller except by practice, practice, and more practice. There is no way to become a good English reader or speller except by practice, practice, and more practice. In our past lessons, we've studied the English letters. You should know the names of every letter in the English alphabet. You should take some time with your mother or father or maybe an older brother or sister and ask them to quiz you on the names of these letters. Let them point to a letter and you say its name. Let's read through these letters together. We'll start up at the top in the green row with the letter A. Find the letter A and point to each letter as we name it. Let's begin. A, B, C, D, E, F. Now go down to the red row. G, H, I, J, K, L. Now go down to the yellow row. M, N, O, P, Q, R. Now to the blue row. S, T, U, V, W, X. And lastly, the orange row. Y, Z. These are the 26 English letters. We also learned that out of the 26 English letters, 5 are vowels. You can see the English vowels highlighted in colors on your screen. Can you name the vowel in the red box? You might think this is the vowel ah, but that's the Latin name. The English name of this vowel is A. Can you name the vowel in the yellow box? You might think that this is the vowel E, but that's its Latin name. This is the vowel E in English. Can you name the vowel in the green box? It would be called E if we were speaking of Latin letters, but we're speaking of English letters, and in English, the vowel in the green box is I. Can you name the vowel in the blue box? It's the vowel O. The name is the same in English and in Latin. How about the vowel in the orange box? In Latin, it's called U, but in English, we call it U. U. A, E, I, O, and U. These are the 5 English vowels. In English, there are 26 letters and 5 vowels. On this screen, the 5 letters in the yellow boxes are the English vowels. All the other letters in blue are called consonants. There are 5 vowels and 21 consonants. 5 vowels and 21 consonants make 26 English letters. In this lesson, we're going to continue our study of the English vowels. So far, we've studied A and E. You should review those lessons to make sure that you remember all the sounds that we use to read the letters A and E in English. In this lesson, we're going to start the third English vowel. This is the third English vowel. We call it I. You can see that it's just a straight line down, the letter I. The letter I makes 5 different sounds in English. The letter I makes 5 different sounds in English. But before we study the sounds made by the English letter I, you should know that sometimes the letter I is drawn with a flat top and a flat bottom. You can see the red lines at the top and bottom of the letter I. Sometimes you'll see the letter I as a simple straight line, and other times you'll see it with a top and bottom. But you can still see that it's just a straight line, the letter I. The first sound that the English letter I is used to represent is the classical sound E. The English letter I can be used to represent the classical sound E. If you look at this word on your screen, you can see the letter I highlighted in red. In this word, the letter I makes the sound E. Let's read this word together. Repeat after me. Maria, Maria, Maria. This is a word that comes from Latin but is used in English. The letter A is read with the sound A, and the letter I is read with the sound E. Maria, Maria. This is the first sound made by the letter I in English. The second sound of the English letter I is the sound I. In English, we call this the long I. We read the letter I with this sound when the letter I comes before a single consonant in a stressed syllable. We read the English letter I with the long I sound when the letter comes before a single consonant in a stressed syllable. You can see here that after the letter I is a single consonant, the letter N. You can also hear when we read the word that the first syllable is stressed. China, China, China. When the syllable is stressed and the vowel I comes before a single consonant, it's usually read with the sound I, China. The English letter I is also read with the long I sound when it comes before a silent E. The letter I in English is also read with the long I sound when it comes before a silent E. If you look at the word on your screen, you can see the vowel I in red. You can also see the letter E at the end of the word. When the letter I comes before a silent E, it's usually read with the long I sound. I. Let's read this word together. Life, life, life. Do you hear the long I sound? Life, life. When the English vowel I is followed by a silent E, it's usually read with the long I sound, I. In some words, you'll see that a silent E follows right after the vowel I. When you see the letter I right before a silent E, it's read with the sound I. I. Let's read this word together. Pie, pie, pie. In English, the letter I also makes the sound I, I, I. In English, we call this the short I. I, I. The letter I is read with the short I sound when it comes before a final consonant. The letter I is read with the short I sound when it comes before a final consonant. In the word on your screen, you can see the vowel I in red. After the vowel I, there is a final consonant, the letter N. Because the vowel is followed by a final consonant, we read it with the short I sound. Let's read this word together. Pin, pin, pin. Do you hear the short I sound? I, I. Pin, pin. The English letter I also makes the short I sound when it comes before more than one consonant. The English letter I also makes the short I sound when it comes before more than one consonant. In the word on your screen, you can see the letter I followed by two consonants, F and T. Because this letter I is followed by two consonants, we'll read it with the short I sound, I, I. Let's read this word together. Gift, gift, gift. Do you hear the short I sound? I, gift, gift. When the English vowel I is followed by more than one consonant, we usually read it with the short I sound, I, gift. The English letter I is also read with the short I sound, I. When it comes before a single consonant in a syllable that is not stressed. The English letter I is also read with the short I sound when it comes before a single consonant in a syllable that is not stressed. Before, we studied the word China, and we said that in the word China, the vowel I is pronounced with the long I sound, I, because the vowel comes before a single consonant, and because the vowel I was in a stressed syllable. China, China. If the vowel I is in a syllable that is not stressed, it will be short. Let's read the word together on your screen. Africa, Africa, Africa. You can hear that the stressed syllable is af. The vowel I is in a syllable that is not stressed. Africa, Africa. Therefore, it's read with the short I sound, I. Africa, Africa. We've learned the three basic sounds the letter I makes in English. Let's take some time to review these sounds and practice with some different words. We learned that the first sound made by the English vowel I is the classical sound E. In this word, we can see the vowel I highlighted in red. And in this word, we're going to read that letter I with the classical sound E. You can see the number 1 above the letter I. Let's read this word together. Gabriel, Gabriel, Gabriel. Do you hear the classical sound in the letter I? Gabriel, Gabriel. We learned that when the vowel I is followed by a silent E, it is usually read with the sound I, which we said was the English long I. In this word, you can see the letter I highlighted in red, followed by a silent E. We'll read this word with the sound of the long English I. Let's read the word together. Time, time, time. Do you hear the sound of the long English I? Time, time. We also learned that in some words, the vowel I comes just before the final silent E. In this word, you can see the vowel I highlighted in red right before a silent E. We said that when the vowel I comes right before a silent E, it's read with the long I sound, I. Let's read this word together. Lie, lie, lie. Do you hear the long I sound? Lie. Look at the end of this word. You can see a vowel I in red, followed by a silent E. We're going to read this word with the long I sound, I. Let's read this word together. Sunrise, sunrise, sunrise. Do you hear the long I sound? Sunrise. Look carefully at this word. Again, you can see the letter I followed by a silent E. That means we're going to read that letter I with the long I sound, I. Let's read this word together. Pride, pride, pride. Do you hear the long I sound? Pride, pride. You should see the same thing in this word. You can see the letter I in red, followed by a silent E. When the letter I is followed by a silent E, we read the letter I with the long I sound, I. Let's read this word together. Smile, smile, smile. Do you hear the long I sound? Smile, smile. We also learned that when the vowel I is found before a single consonant in a syllable that is stressed, it is read with the long I sound. Look at this word carefully. you can see that the vowel I comes before a single consonant, the consonant J. In this word, the syllable that the letter I is in is stressed, so it's read with a long I sound. Let's read this word together. Elijah, Elijah, Elijah. Do you hear the sound of the long I in the stressed syllable? Elijah, Elijah. What do you notice about the letter I in this word? You should notice that the letter I comes before a single consonant. Here you can see the letter I followed by the letter S. In this word, the first syllable is stressed, so this letter I is going to be read with the long I sound, I. Let's read this word together. Isaac, 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 Isaac. Look carefully at this word and the letter I. What do you notice about the letter I in this word? You can see that the letter I is followed by two consonants, S and T. We learned that any time the letter I is followed by more than one consonant, it's read with the short I sound. I, I. In this word, the letter I is followed by two consonants, so we'll read it with the sound I. Let's read this word together. Sister, sister, sister. Do you hear the short I sound? I, sister, sister. We learned that when the English letter I comes before a final consonant, it's read with the short I sound, I, I. In this word, you can see the vowel I in red followed by a final consonant, the letter D. Let's read this word together using the sound I when we read the letter I. Kid, kid, kid. Did you hear the I sound? Kid, kid. How should you read the letter I in this word? Look carefully at the word. What you should notice is that the letter I is followed by two consonants. If the letter I is followed by more than one consonant, it is usually read with the short I sound, I. Let's read this word together. Hill, hill, hill. Do you hear the I sound? Hill, hill. Look carefully at this English word. What do you notice about the letter I? You should notice that it's followed by more than one consonant. If the letter I is followed by more than one consonant, we read it with the sound I, I. Let's read this word together. Milk, milk, milk. Look carefully at this English word. What do you notice about the letter I? You should notice that it's followed again by two consonants. If the letter I is followed by more than one consonant, we read it with the short I sound, I, I. Let's read this word together. fish, fish, fish. Here's a word that's a little bit more difficult. What do you notice about the letter I in this word? You should notice that it's followed by more than one consonant. The letter I is followed by the consonants C and K. When the letter I is followed by more than one consonant, we read it with the short I sound. So let's read this word together. Chicken, 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 chicken. Remember, there are many words in English whose spelling does not match their sounds. There are many words in English whose spelling does not match their sounds. Sometimes the letter I in English is found in a digraph. A digraph is a set of two letters that make only one sound. Sometimes we'll find the English letter I in a digraph. Let's study the English digraphs and learn how to read them. Look at this word carefully. You can see that the letter I is joined to the letter E. The letters I and E in this word form a digraph. This digraph IE is read with the classical sound E, E, E. So usually when you see the letters I and E together in the middle of a word, it's read with the sound E. Let's read this word together. Peace, 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 peace. If you look carefully at this word, you'll again see the digraph IE. And you should remember that the digraph IE in English is read with the sound E, E. Let's read this word together. Thief, thief, thief. Did you hear the E sound of the digraph? Thief, thief. Again, in this word, you can see the digraph IE. Let's practice reading this word. Field, 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 field. In this word, again, you can see the digraph IE. The E at the end of the word is silent. Let's practice reading this word. Believe, believe, believe. Do you hear the sound of the digraph IE? Believe. Look carefully at this word and you'll see something a little bit different. You'll see that in red we have a digraph, but it's not the digraph IE. Here, the digraph is EI. The digraph EI in this word has the same sound as the digraph IE in the words we've just read. It's pronounced E, E. Let's read this word together. Receive, receive, receive. These two digraphs, IE and EI, are related. What we find is that I comes before E. Look carefully at this English word. You can see that it has the digraph EI. But the EI does not come after the letter C. This is a different digraph that makes a different sound. This digraph makes the sound A, like the classical A sound we learned in Latin. Let's read this word together. Vein, vein, vein. Just because the digraph is written EI does not mean it's pronounced like the E in receive. The EI digraph only makes the E sound when it comes after the letter C. In other words, the EI digraph makes the sound A. In this word, we learn a fourth digraph with the letter I. Here we have the digraph AI. The digraph AI makes the sound of the classical A. Let's read this word together. Rain, rain, rain. The digraph AI makes the sound of the classical A. There is one more digraph in English with the letter I. It's the digraph I-O at the end of a word that ends in N. The digraph I-O before N at the end of a word. If you look carefully at this word, you can see the digraph I-O in red. And after the digraph, you see a final letter N. This is the digraph I-O, and it's read with the sound Let's read this word together. Mission, mission, mission. Now, you may wonder why the letters S and S in the middle of the word are read with the sound sh rather than the sound s. The reason is because this digraph makes the consonant before it soft. The consonant that comes before the digraph I-O is read with a soft sound. Not like mission, but mission, mission. Look carefully at this English word. You can see that it has the digraph I-O, and after the digraph I-O, we have a final consonant N. This digraph I-O will be pronounced with the sound Remember that when we have the digraph I-O in a word, the consonant before it becomes soft. We would not read this word as Nathan, but with a soft T. Nation, nation, nation. Remember, consonants are soft before I-O-N. Consonants are soft before I-O-N. And whenever we see the ending I-O-N, I and O form a digraph that is pronounced uh. Let's practice with a few more words that end in I-O-N. Look carefully at this word. You can see the digraph I-O in red, followed by a final N. Let's read this word together. Remember, the consonant before I-O is going to be soft. Motion, motion, motion. Look carefully at this word. You'll see again that it ends in I-O-N. The consonant before the digraph I-O will be soft. The digraph I-O will be read with the sound Let's read this word together. Vision, 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 vision. Now look at this word. You can see once again that it ends in I-O-N. The letters I and O form the digraph I-O. The consonant before the digraph will be read with a soft sound. Let's read this together. Action, 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 action. Now that we've studied the letter I and the basic sounds that it's read with in English, let's take a look at some popular words that don't follow the normal rules. These are called irregulars because they're not regular. You'll see lots of words in English that are not regular. And the only way that you can really become a good speaker and writer in English is by practice. Let's practice some irregulars. We learned earlier in this lesson that the letter I, when followed by a silent E, makes the sound I. If we followed that rule, this word would be read as machine, machine. But that's not how this word is read. This word is irregular. In this word, the letter I is read with the sound E. It's irregular. Let's read this word together. Machine, machine, machine. There are a few English words that end in the letter I. And these too are irregular. There's no real rule to follow when you read them. You can only read them correctly by practice and experience. This word is read with the sound E for the letter I. Let's read it together. Ski, ski, ski. In this word, the letter I at the end of the word is read with the sound E. In this word, we again have a letter I at the end of the word. However, in this word, the letter I does not make the sound E. It makes the sound I. This word is another irregular. Let's read it together. High, high, high. In the word ski, the letter I was read with the sound E. In the word high, the letter I was read with the sound I. These are irregulars. Earlier in this lesson, we learned that if the vowel I was followed by a silent E, it would be read with the sound I. If that rule was followed here, we would read this word live, live. And we can read it like that. We can read this word live. But there's another way to read this word that is irregular. In this word, the letter I could also be read with the short I sound I, I. We would read this word as live, live, like we live in houses, live. Usually, this would be read as live, but this word is irregular. It's read as live, live. Here's another example of the irregular sound we just saw in the word live. Here, if we followed the usual rules for reading the letter I in this word would be long and sound like I. We would read this word as give or jive, but that would be wrong. This is an irregular word, and in this word, the letter I is read with the sound I, I. Let's read this word together. Give, give, give. This is another irregular word. In this lesson, we learned that the letter I, coming before a single consonant in a stressed syllable, should be read with the sound I, as in China, China. If you look at this word, the first letter I comes before a single consonant. And the first letter I is in a syllable that is stressed. If we followed the normal rules for reading the letter I in English, we would read this word as vicit, vicit. But that would be wrong. This word has an irregular pronunciation. Even though the first letter I should be read with the long I sound, it's read with the short I sound. This word is read as visit, visit, visit. This is an irregular word. Again, in this lesson we learned that the letter I, when it comes before a single consonant in a stressed syllable, should normally be read with the sound I, as in China. If we look at this word, we can see that the letter I comes before a single consonant, Z. The letter I in this word is also in a syllable that is stressed. If we followed the normal rule for reading the letter I, we would read this word as lizard, lizard. But that would be wrong. This is an irregular word. In this word, the letter I is read with the short I sound. We would read this word as lizard, lizard, lizard. This is another irregular word. Here we have another irregular word. We learned that when the letter I comes before more than one consonant sound, it's read with the short I sound, as in gift or milk. In this word, you can see the letter I before two consonants, B and L. If we followed the rule for this word, we might read this as bibla or bibble, but that would be wrong. The reason why is because even though the letter I is followed by two consonants, the way that we read this word is as if there is only one consonant after the I. If you look at the light word underneath the larger word on your screen, you can see it's spelled B-I-B-E-L. That's how we treat this word when we read it. So we read the letter I with a long I sound, I, as if it came before a single consonant. Let's read this word together. Bible, Bible, Bible. This is another irregular word. Here we have another irregular word. If we looked at this word, we might think that the letters I, E formed the digraph, I-E. The digraph I-E is read with the sound E. If we followed that rule for reading this word, we would read this word like queet, queet, queet. But that would be wrong. This is another irregular word. In this word, the letter I is read with the long I sound. Let's read it together. Quiet, quiet, quiet. This is another irregular word. Here's another irregular word. When we look at this word, we see the letters I and E together. We might think that this is the digraph IE. If it was the digraph IE, we would read it with the sound E. This word would be read as friend, friend, friend. But that would be wrong. This is an irregular word. The IE digraph in this word is pronounced with the short E sound, eh, eh, eh. We would read this word as friend, friend, friend. This is another irregular word. Earlier in this lesson, we learned about the digraph AI. And we said that when we see the digraph AI, we read it with the classical A sound, as in rain. And here in this word, we see the letters AI together. If we followed that rule, we might read this as again, again. In England, that is how they would say this word, again. But in America, we pronounce this word differently. The letters A and I are read as a digraph, but we read them with the short E sound, eh, eh. In America, we read this word as again, again, again. This is another irregular word. Remember, there are many words in English whose spelling does not match their sounds. There are many words in English whose spelling does not match their sounds. This is what makes reading and writing in English so difficult. There are many words in English whose spelling does not match their sounds. If there are so many words in English whose spelling does not match their sounds, how can we possibly learn all these? How can we possibly learn all these words where the spelling doesn't match the sounds? You will learn to spell rightly the more you read and write. There's no easy way to master English spelling. It takes time. You will learn to spell rightly the more you read and write. There's no easy way to master English spelling. It takes time. Reading and spelling in English may be confusing and difficult, but that's no excuse for being lazy in your spelling and reading. You should never guess at the spelling of English words. Look them up in a dictionary or ask for help. You should never guess at the spelling of words. Look them up or ask for help. In this lesson, we've studied the sounds made by the English letter I. The words on your screen are example words to help you remember all the different sounds. Let's read these words together. Maria, China, life, pie, pin, gift, Africa, peace, receive, vein, rain, mission, nation, and many irregulars. Now that you've practiced all of the sounds of the English letter I, you should try reading the Lord's Prayer. We've colored all of the letter I's in the Lord's Prayer red on your screen. Take a few minutes with your mother or father or an older brother or sister and read the Lord's Prayer. When you come to a letter I, think about what sound it makes and why it's making that sound. This will help you to master the sounds of the English letter I. You should do this for all the vowels you learned so far anytime you read. I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy's Petty School Reading Program. For more resources from the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, visit us online at classicalliberarts.com. God bless.